The night sky of Varen City was a tapestry of neon lights and ancient stars, both competing for dominance in the post-technological world. Within the grand arena at the heart of the metropolis, Princess Aurelia Corthane stood at her private balcony, golden eyes scanning the crowd below with unconcealed disdain. Her slender fingers, adorned with neural link rings that connected her to the city's vast information network, tapped impatiently against the polished stone railing. "They're all so ordinary," she murmured to her companion, Lyra, who stood dutifully beside her. The arena buzzed with excitement as thousands gathered for the opening ceremony of the Grand Tactical Tournament, the most prestigious combat event in the Eastern Hemisphere. Aurelia's lips curled into a smile as she spotted her champion, the speed duelist, warming up at the edge of the arena. His armor gleamed with cutting-edge technology, each piece worth more than what most citizens of Varen earned in a year. The princess had spared no expense in securing his services, confident that his undefeated record would remain unblemished. "Your Highness," Lyra began cautiously, her voice barely audible over the roar of the crowd. "I've heard rumors that the Tournament Council has invited a special guest this year." Aurelia waved her hand dismissively. "Let them bring whoever they want. No one can match the speed duelist's reflexes. My investment is secure." The Tournament Council chairman approached the central podium, his voice amplified across the arena. "Citizens of Varen, honored guests, and esteemed competitors, welcome to the 127th Grand Tactical Tournament." Cheers erupted from the stands, a wave of sound that washed over the arena. "This year," the chairman continued, "we are honored to host not only our defending champion, the undefeated speed duelist, but also a special challenger who has agreed to face him in our opening exhibition match." Aurelia leaned forward, her interest piqued despite herself. The crowd fell silent as the main doors to the arena opened, revealing not the expected dramatic entrance of a renowned warrior, but the shuffling gait of an elderly man. He wore simple farmer's clothes, worn and patched in multiple places, and led a small bovine creature by a rope. Laughter rippled through the crowd, starting as a few snickers and growing into a roar of mockery. Aurelia joined in, her laughter crystal clear and cutting. "That's their special challenger? An old cattle herder?" She scoffed loudly enough for nearby spectators to hear. What a joke. The council has truly lost its mind. The old man seemed oblivious to the laughter, gently guiding his animal to a small patch of grass near the arena's edge. He moved with the unhurried pace of someone who had nowhere important to be, and all the time in the world to get there. The chairman cleared his throat, waiting for the laughter to subside. "I present to you, citizens of Varen, the humble farmer, who has agreed to face our speed duelist in combat." Fresh waves of laughter swept through the arena, but Lyra remained stone-faced beside Aurelia. "Your Highness," she whispered, "I don't think this is what it seems." Aurelia rolled her eyes. "Of course it isn't. It's a publicity stunt. The council knows how these exhibitions go. The champion toys with the challenger for a while, then delivers a decisive but not lethal blow. It's theater. Nothing more." The speed duelist strode to the center of the arena, his movements fluid and precise. His specialized armor hummed with energy, the neural interface allowing him to move at speeds that ordinary humans could barely perceive. He bowed to the council, then to the royal box where Aurelia sat, and finally turned to face the old farmer with an exaggerated, mocking bow. "Old man," his voice boomed across the arena, "I have defeated 99 challengers without suffering so much as a scratch. Are you sure you wish to be my 100th victory?" The old man didn't respond. He simply patted his bovine companion and whispered something in its ear before turning to face the duelist. For a brief moment, as the farmer adjusted his tattered cloak, Aurelia caught a glimpse of what appeared to be a black combat suit beneath the raggedy exterior, her brow furrowed in confusion. "Did you see that?" she asked Lyra. Lyra nodded slowly. "Yes, Your Highness. And I believe others did too." Indeed. A strange hush had fallen over portions of the crowd, particularly among the older spectators. They leaned forward, eyes narrowed, as if trying to confirm something they had only heard in legends. The chairman raised his hand. "The exhibition match will begin on my signal. Standard tournament rules apply. The first to yield or become incapacitated loses. Lethal force is forbidden." He paused dramatically. "Duelists, prepare yourselves." The speed duelist drew his weapon, a state-of-the-art vibroblade that could cut through nearly any material. The old farmer remained empty-handed, which elicited fresh laughter from the crowd. "Will you not even arm yourself, old man?" the speed duelist taunted. "Or perhaps you believe your farming tools will be sufficient?" The old man finally spoke, his voice surprisingly clear and strong despite his apparent age. "I have no need of weapons against you." A murmur spread through the crowd. Aurelia felt a strange unease settle in her stomach, but she quickly dismissed it. This was ridiculous. The old man was clearly delusional, and in moments, he would learn the price of his arrogance. "I'll wager 10,000 credits on the speed duelist delivering the winning blow within 30 seconds, she announced loudly, triggering a flurry of betting activity among the spectators. The chairman brought his hand down. "Begin!" The speed duelist lived up to his name. He moved like lightning, crossing the arena in a blur of motion that left afterimages in Aurelia's vision. His blade hummed as it sliced through the air, aimed directly at the old farmer's chest in a strike that would end the match instantly without causing permanent harm. What happened next occurred so quickly that later, when reviewing the arena's high-speed cameras, analysts would spend weeks debating the exact sequence of events. The old man didn't appear to move at all, yet somehow, the speed duelist's perfect strike met nothing but empty air. The momentum of his failed attack carried him forward, off balance. There was a whisper of movement, the merest suggestion of the old man's hand rising in a gentle arc. Then, silence. The speed duelist stood frozen in place, his vibroblade still extended in the killing strike that never landed. For a long moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, a hairline crack appeared in the blade. The crack spread, and with a sound like shattering crystal, the weapon, supposedly indestructible, broke in two. The speed duelist collapsed to his knees, his neural armor powering down with a dying whine. The arena was absolutely silent. 8,000 spectators held their breath collectively, unable to process what they had just witnessed. Aurelia gripped the railing so tightly her knuckles turned white. "What just happened?" she demanded, but Lyra was as speechless as everyone else. The old farmer turned away from his fallen opponent and walked back to his bovine companion, patting it gently as if nothing unusual had occurred. As he moved, his tattered cloak shifted, and for a brief moment, the entire arena caught a glimpse of what lay beneath. Not the simple clothes of a farmer, but the distinctive black combat suit of a legendary figure that many believed to be merely a myth. The hidden master, Orion. Aurelia felt the blood drain from her face as recognition dawned. She had just publicly mocked and bet against the greatest martial artist in recorded history, a man who had disappeared from public view decades ago and was presumed dead. A man who, if the old stories were to be believed, was also her grandfather's former teacher. The crowd erupted in a chaotic mixture of cheers, gasps, and confused shouts. The chairman himself seemed at a loss for words, staring open-mouthed at the unassuming figure who had just defeated their champion with a single, almost imperceptible movement. Aurelia's world tilted on its axis. She had made a terrible, unforgivable mistake, and everyone had witnessed it. Lyra placed a hand on her arm. "Your Highness, I believe we should go down to the arena floor, immediately." For once, Aurelia didn't argue. The corridors beneath the arena were a maze of ancient stone and modern technology, a physical representation of Varen itself, a city caught between reverence for tradition and obsession with progress. Aurelia moved through them in a daze, her mind racing to understand the implications of what had just occurred. The hidden master, Orion, the man who had revolutionized martial arts by combining ancient techniques with an understanding of biomechanics that had never been replicated. The warrior who had reportedly retired to meditate in the mountains after growing disgusted with the commercialization of combat sports, and she had called him a joke. "How was I supposed to know?" she muttered as they approached the arena floor entrance. "He looks like a farmer." "That's rather the point of being a hidden master, isn't it?" Lyra replied, her tone gentle but pointed. "To remain hidden in plain sight?" Before Aurelia could formulate a response, they emerged onto the arena floor. The speed duelist was being carried away by medical staff, conscious but clearly in shock. The old man, Orion, stood calmly at the center of the arena, now surrounded by tournament officials and security personnel who seemed unsure whether to arrest him or bow to him. The chairman noticed Aurelia's approach and gestured frantically for her to join them. "Your Highness," he said, his voice pitched low. "We have a situation of the utmost delicacy. This man claims to be Master Orion," Aurelia finished for him, drawing on every ounce of royal training to keep her voice steady. "The hidden master." The old man turned to face her, and Aurelia found herself pinned by eyes that were startlingly clear and sharp in his weathered face. There was no anger in his gaze, no contempt for her earlier mockery, only a calm assessment that somehow made her feel more ashamed than any rebuke could have. "Princess Aurelia," he said, inclining his head slightly. "You have your grandmother's eyes, but not yet her wisdom." The simple statement hit Aurelia like a physical blow. Her grandmother, the late Queen Alara, had been renowned for her diplomatic skill and judgment. To be found wanting in comparison was both accurate and painful. "Master Orion," she replied, forcing herself to meet his gaze. "I owe you an apology for my discourteous words earlier. I spoke from ignorance." A small smile touched the corners of his mouth. "The beginning of wisdom is the admission of ignorance. Perhaps there is hope for you yet." The chairman cleared his throat nervously. "Master Orion, the council would be honored if you would consent to stay for the duration of the tournament. We could arrange for special accommodations, security." "I require nothing special," Orion interrupted gently. "I came only to observe and, it seems, to participate in your exhibition. Now that is done, I will return to my farm." "But surely," the chairman sputtered, "after such a display, the people will want to see more, to learn from you." "The people saw what they needed to see," Orion said, his voice taking on a firmer edge. A reminder that true mastery does not reside in expensive equipment or neural enhancements, but in the harmony of body, mind, and spirit. He turned back to Aurelia, his expression softening slightly. "Your father was my student once. Did you know that? Before the lure of technology and easy power led him down a different path." Aurelia blinked in surprise. "My father never mentioned studying martial arts." "No, I don't imagine he would have." The king prefers not to dwell on endeavors at which he did not excel. The subtle criticism of her father should have angered Aurelia, but instead, she found herself curious. Why did you leave? Why disappear into obscurity when you could have continued to teach, to influence the development of combat techniques? Orion stroked his beard thoughtfully. When the river becomes polluted, the wise fish swims to clearer waters. The combat arts were becoming a spectacle, divorced from their philosophical foundations. I chose to preserve what I valued rather than watch it be corrupted. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Axel, the weapons manufacturer who had supplied the speed duelist's now shattered vibroblade. His face was flushed with anger as he pushed through the circle of officials. "This is outrageous," he declared, pointing an accusing finger at Orion. That blade was constructed from neocarbide alloy, reinforced with molecular bonding. It is physically impossible for it to break, especially from the impact of an unenhanced human hand. Orion regarded him with the patient expression of a teacher confronted with a particularly slow student. Nothing made by human hands is indestructible. Master weaponsmith, your blade failed because it relied on strength alone, without flexibility. Like many modern innovations, it sacrificed balance for power. Axel's face darkened further. You used some kind of illegal technology, hidden micro-disruptors, perhaps, or a localized EMP. There will be an investigation. By all means, investigate. Orion replied calmly. You will find nothing but the application of principles your machines cannot yet measure. Aurelia found herself stepping between them, moved by an impulse she didn't fully understand. Enough. Axel. The match was conducted according to tournament rules, and Master Orion's victory stands. If you wish to file a formal complaint, you may do so through the proper channels. Axel glared at her, then at Orion, before stalking away. The crowd of officials began to disperse as well, leaving Aurelia, Lyra, and Orion in a small island of relative privacy. That was unexpectedly diplomatic of you, Princess, Orion observed. Aurelia shrugged, uncomfortable with the praise after her earlier behavior. It seemed the appropriate response, and she hesitated, then plunged ahead. I'm curious. Would you consider giving me a demonstration of your technique? Not here, of course, but perhaps at the palace? Orion studied her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Why would you want that, Princess? What would you hope to gain? It was a simple question, but Aurelia found herself struggling to articulate an answer that didn't sound self-serving or shallow. I don't know, she admitted finally, but I feel like I've been shown that there's something important I've been missing, and I want to understand what it is. Orion's expression softened slightly. Honesty. That's a good start. He glanced around the arena, at the spectators still buzzing with excitement, at the high-tech displays replaying his victory in slow motion. Very well. I will visit the palace tomorrow at noon. Until then, Princess. With a slight bow, he turned and walked away, his tattered cloak once again concealing the combat suit beneath. His bovine companion fell into step beside him, and the odd pair made their exit through the main arena doors, leaving bewildered security guards scrambling to clear a path. Lyra leaned close to Aurelia. That was unexpected. Aurelia nodded slowly, her mind still processing the events of the last hour. Yes, it was. She turned to her friend, a determined expression settling on her face. Cancel my appointments for tomorrow, and find out everything you can about Master Orion and his history with my father. The tournament would continue as planned, but Aurelia knew that something fundamental had changed. A single exhibition match A single movement so subtle it was almost invisible had cracked the foundation of her worldview. And like the speed duelist's broken blade, she wasn't sure it could be repaired. Morning came to Varen City in a wash of pale light that struggled to penetrate the permanent haze of technological emissions. In her private chambers, high in the royal palace, Princess Aurelia had been awake for hours, poring over the information Lyra had compiled about Master Orion. The facts were frustratingly sparse. Orion had appeared on the combat circuit nearly 50 years ago, seemingly from nowhere, and had revolutionized martial arts with his shadowless sword technique, a method of combat so fast and efficient that opponents often found themselves defeated before they realized they'd been struck. For a decade, he had been undefeated, turning down lucrative sponsorship offers and technology enhancements that would have made him even more formidable. Then, at the height of his fame, he had abruptly retired, citing spiritual concerns about the direction of combat sports. There were rumors that he had established a small school in the mountains, accepting only a handful of students, apparently including Aurelia's father, a fact that had never been mentioned in any official royal biography. 20 years ago, even those rumors had ceased. Orion had vanished completely from public knowledge, becoming a legend rather than a man. Until yesterday. A soft knock at her door interrupted Aurelia's thoughts. "Enter," she called, setting aside the neural tablet she'd been reading from. Lyra slipped into the room, her expression troubled. "Your Highness, your father requests your presence in the throne room immediately." Aurelia winced. "He's heard about yesterday, then—" "The entire city has heard about yesterday. Your Highness, the footage of the match has gone viral on every information network. The betting syndicates are in chaos, and the tournament council is fielding thousands of requests for Master Orion to participate in more matches." "Which he won't do," Aurelia said with certainty. "He made that clear." "Yes. Well, that hasn't stopped people from asking." Lyra hesitated. "Your Highness, there's more. The council chairman was found this morning in his private office, unconscious. Medical scans indicate he suffered some kind of neurological attack. He's stable, but unresponsive." Aurelia frowned. "That's concerning, but why tell me specifically?" "Because according to security footage, his last visitor before the incident was Axel, the weapons manufacturer, the same man who was extremely upset about Master Orion breaking his unbreakable blade." A cold feeling settled in Aurelia's stomach. "You think Axel had something to do with the chairman's condition? That seems extreme, even for him." "I'm not drawing conclusions, Your Highness. I'm merely noting the timing." Aurelia nodded slowly. "Thank you, Lyra. I'll keep it in mind. And I'd better not keep my father waiting." The throne room of Varen Palace was a study in contrasts, ancient stone walls and floors juxtaposed with holographic displays and neural link terminals. King Darius Corthane sat upon a throne that looked traditional at first glance, but contained more computing power than the entire city had possessed a century ago. He did not rise as Aurelia entered and performed the formal bow required by protocol. His expression was stern, the neural implants at his temples glowing faintly with suppressed emotion. "Daughter," he said, his voice carrying easily across the vast chamber. "You have placed us in an awkward position." Aurelia straightened, meeting her father's gaze. "I apologize for any embarrassment my actions may have caused. Father, I spoke without knowledge and bet unwisely. That is not what concerns me." The king gestured, and a holographic display appeared in the air between them, showing the moment from yesterday when Orion had defeated the speed duelist. "What concerns me is that you invited this man to the palace without consulting me." Aurelia blinked in surprise. Didn't think it would be an issue. He claims to be your former teacher." A muscle twitched in the king's jaw. Orion taught me briefly. Yes, many years ago. Before I realized that his philosophies were incompatible with the progress of our kingdom. What philosophies are those? He believes that technology should serve human development, not replace it. A quaint notion, but one that would have left Varen centuries behind our competitors if I had embraced it. The king leaned forward. Orion is a relic. Aurelia, a powerful one, as he demonstrated yesterday, but a relic nonetheless. His views have no place in modern governance. Aurelia considered her words carefully. I invited him out of curiosity. Father, and perhaps to make amends for my rudeness. I didn't realize there was history between you. Now you do. The king's expression softened slightly. I'm not forbidding you from meeting with him. In fact, I think it might be educational for you. But remember where your loyalties lie. Daughter, Orion's ways are not our ways. The warning was clear, and Aurelia felt a flicker of resentment. Did her father think her so easily swayed? I understand. Father, is there anything else? Yes, I've received reports of unusual activity within the city. Information networks experiencing localized disruptions, security systems malfunctioning. The technical ministry believes it may be related to old-style phantom technique applications. Aurelia frowned. Phantom techniques? I thought those were banned decades ago. They interfere with our neural networks and can cause unpredictable effects in augmented individuals. The king's gaze was piercing. Orion was known to be skilled in such techniques before they were outlawed. The implication was clear, and Aurelia felt compelled to defend the old master. Surely you're not suggesting that Master Orion is responsible for these disruptions. He only arrived in the city yesterday, for the tournament. So he claims. But Orion has always been adept at moving unseen when he wishes to. The king waved his hand dismissively. In any case, I've increased security throughout the palace and the city. Your meeting with him will proceed as planned, but under appropriate supervision. Aurelia bit back a protest. It would do no good, and she didn't want to give her father reason to rescind his permission altogether. As you wish, Father. The king nodded, his attention already shifting to other matters displayed on his personal neural feed. You may go. Aurelia bowed again and left the throne room, her mind churning with new questions. What had happened between her father and Orion to create such tension? And what were these phantom techniques that seemed to concern her father so greatly? She found Lyra waiting for her in the antechamber. Well, her friend asked quietly. He's not happy, but he's allowing the meeting to proceed. Aurelia glanced around to ensure they weren't overheard. Lyra, what do you know about phantom techniques? Lyra's eyes widened slightly. Not much. They're old methods of manipulating electronic systems through specific vibrational patterns. They were banned when neural implants became widespread because they could cause severe neurological effects in augmented individuals. Like, say, rendering someone unconscious and unresponsive? Lyra caught her meaning immediately. You think Master Orion might have had something to do with the council chairman's condition? I don't know what to think, Aurelia admitted. But my father seemed concerned about phantom techniques being used in the city, and he clearly believes Orion might be responsible. But why would Master Orion attack the chairman? He seemed to have no quarrel with the man. Aurelia shook her head. I don't know. It doesn't make sense. She straightened her shoulders. But I intend to find out. Come on. We need to prepare for Orion's visit. And I want to review the security footage from the council offices myself. As they walked through the palace corridors, Aurelia couldn't shake the feeling that she was missing something important. The pieces didn't fit together. The legendary master suddenly reappearing, her father's obvious discomfort, the mysterious attack on the council chairman. What game was being played here, and who was controlling the pieces? Noon approached, and Aurelia found herself in the palace's east garden, a space that had been deliberately preserved in its natural state, free from the technological enhancements that characterized most of Varen's city. It seemed an appropriate setting for meeting Master Orion. The security presence was visible but discreet. Royal guards positioned at strategic points around the garden's perimeter. Their neural armor muted to minimal power levels. Aurelia had insisted on that concession, not wanting to appear hostile or fearful. Lyra stood beside her, a data pad in hand. The security footage from the council offices should be available soon. I had to go through proper channels to avoid alerting your father. Aurelia nodded absently, her attention focused on the garden entrance. Thank you. Lyra. She broke off as a figure appeared in the arched doorway. Master Orion had exchanged his tattered farmer's cloak for a simple dark tunic and pants, but he still moved with the same unhurried grace that had caught Aurelia's attention in the arena. His bovine companion was nowhere to be seen. "Princess," he said, bowing slightly as he approached. "Thank you for your invitation." Aurelia returned the bow, deeper than protocol required when greeting a commoner. "Master Orion, I'm honored that you accepted." He smiled, the expression transforming his weathered face into something younger, almost mischievous. "Let us dispense with formalities, shall we? You have questions. I can see them circling behind your eyes like fish in a pond." Despite herself, Aurelia smiled back. "You're very direct. At my age, one learns the value of time. Shall we walk?" He gestured toward the winding path that led through the garden. Aurelia nodded, falling into step beside him. Lyra followed at a discreet distance, as did the royal guards. "Your father has concerns about my presence," Orion observed, glancing at the guards. "He has concerns about many things," Aurelia replied carefully, "including reports of phantom techniques being used within the city." Orion raised an eyebrow. "Ah, and he believes I might be responsible. Are you? Do you think I would answer truthfully if I were?" His tone was light, but his eyes were serious. "Phantom techniques, as your people call them, are simply another method of interacting with the world's energies. They became dangerous only when humans began embedding electronic devices within their bodies, creating vulnerabilities that had not existed before." Aurelia frowned. "That's a rather simplistic view. Neural implants have extended human capabilities exponentially, allowing us to process information and control our environment in ways that were previously impossible. At what cost?" Orion stopped beside a small pond where golden fish swam lazily in the clear water. "Look at these creatures. Princess, they have no need of enhancements to be perfectly what they are." "They're fish," Aurelia pointed out. "Their needs and aspirations are somewhat more limited than ours." Orion chuckled. "Perhaps. Or perhaps they simply accept the boundaries of their existence with more grace than humans do." He turned to face her fully. "But you didn't invite me here to debate philosophy. What is it you truly want to know?" Aurelia hesitated, then decided on directness. "What happened between you and my father? He speaks of you with respect, but also caution. Darius was a talented student, but an impatient one. He wanted power without understanding, results without process." Orion's expression turned distant, as if looking into the past. "When he realized that the path I offered would require years of disciplined study with no shortcuts, he chose a different teacher. Who? Technology. Neural implants. Enhancements that gave him the appearance of mastery without the substance. Orion sighed. I do not blame him for his choice. It aligned with his ambitions for Varen, but it was a divergence from the path I had hoped to show him. Aurelia absorbed this information, trying to reconcile it with the father she knew, a man who valued efficiency and results above all else. And what of these phantom techniques? Did you teach those to my father as well? I began to. They require a deep understanding of the connections between all things, what some call the void between substances. Darius had potential, but Orion shook his head. His mind was too focused on application rather than understanding. It made him dangerous, both to himself and others. A chill ran down Aurelia's spine. Dangerous how? Before Orion could answer, Lyra approached, her expression urgent. Your Highness, I've received the security footage you requested. I think you should see it immediately. Aurelia glanced at Orion apologetically. Will you excuse me for a moment? Master? Of course. He turned back to the pond, seemingly content to watch the fish while he waited. Aurelia moved a short distance away with Lyra, who activated her data pad. The holographic display showed the interior of the council chairman's office. The timestamp indicated it was from the previous evening, several hours after the exhibition match. The chairman sat at his desk, visibly agitated as Axel paced before him. There was no audio, but the body language of both men suggested a heated argument. Suddenly, Axel leaned across the desk, his face contorted with anger, and pressed something against the chairman's neck, a small device that Aurelia didn't recognize. The chairman immediately stiffened, his eyes going wide, then slumped forward onto his desk. Axel calmly retrieved the device, adjusted the chairman's position to make it appear as though he had fallen asleep at his desk, and left the office. Aurelia stared at the footage in shock. He deliberately attacked the chairman. It appears so, Lyra agreed. And given the timing, and what we know of Axel's anger about the broken blade, he wanted to prevent the chairman from allowing Orion to participate further in the tournament. Aurelia finished. But why? What's Axel's stake in this? I don't know, Your Highness, but perhaps Master Orion might have insights. Aurelia nodded and returned to where Orion still stood by the pond. Master, I apologize for the interruption. Something urgent has come to my attention regarding the tournament council chairman. She briefly explained what they had seen in the security footage. Orion listened without interrupting, his expression growing increasingly troubled. This is concerning, he said when she had finished, but not entirely surprising. Axel's reaction to the broken blade was extreme, more than professional pride would account for. You think there's something special about that particular weapon? Perhaps. Or perhaps about the technology it represents. Orion stroked his beard thoughtfully. The shadowless sword technique I demonstrated yesterday reveals weaknesses in physical structures, weaknesses that exist in all things, but are normally invisible to the human eye. It allowed me to break the blade with minimal force, applied at precisely the right point. And this threatens Axel's business somehow? It threatens more than that. Princess, it threatens the entire philosophy upon which your father has built modern Varen, the belief that technology can overcome all natural limitations. Orion's gaze was penetrating. If people begin to question that belief, to see that there are other paths to power and mastery, it could destabilize the social order. Aurelia finished, understanding dawning. The class distinctions between the technologically enhanced and the naturals would be undermined. Precisely, and there are those who benefit greatly from maintaining those distinctions. Aurelia's mind raced. making connections she had never before considered. The rigid social hierarchy of Varen, with the neural-enhanced nobility at the top and the unaugmented laborers at the bottom, had always seemed natural to her, a reflection of merit and ability. But what if it was merely a construct, maintained by those who profited from it? "We need to inform the authorities about Axel," she said decisively. "What he did to the chairman is criminal." "And what evidence will you present?" Orion asked gently. "Security footage obtained without official authorization? The word of a princess against that of a powerful industrialist with connections throughout the government?" Aurelia's shoulders slumped as she recognized the truth in his words. Her father might believe her, but would he act against Axel, whose weapons and technology were vital to Varen's military superiority? "Then what do we do?" she asked, frustration evident in her voice. "Sometimes," Orion said, "the most effective action is not direct confrontation, but a strategic realignment of forces. The tournament continues for another week, does it not?" Aurelia nodded. "Yes, with the championship match scheduled for the final day. Then perhaps we should allow events to unfold naturally, while remaining vigilant for opportunities to influence their course." Orion smiled slightly. "Your father was not wrong about everything he learned from me. Patience can be a powerful ally." Before Aurelia could respond, a commotion at the garden entrance caught their attention. Royal guards were converging around a new arrival, Axel himself, accompanied by several officials in the formal attire of the technical ministry. "Princess Aurelia," Axel called, his voice carrying across the garden. "I must speak with you on a matter of urgent importance." Aurelia exchanged a glance with Orion, who inclined his head slightly, indicating she should proceed. She straightened her shoulders and moved to meet Axel, maintaining a formal distance. "Master Weaponsmith," she said coolly, "this is an unexpected visit." Axel bowed, though the gesture lacked sincerity. "Forgive the intrusion, Your Highness, but I bring grave news. The technical ministry has detected unauthorized use of phantom techniques within the palace grounds, specifically in this garden." His gaze shifted to Orion, who stood calmly by the pond. "Given the known practitioners of such techniques present, the ministry has issued an order for Master Orion's detention and questioning." Aurelia felt a surge of protective anger. "On what evidence? Master Orion is my invited guest, and he has done nothing to warrant such treatment." "The evidence is technical in nature, Your Highness, and rather complex to explain to someone without the appropriate neural interfaces." Axel's smile was thin. "But I assure you, it is conclusive. And given the attack on the Tournament Council chairman last night, an attack bearing all the hallmarks of phantom technique application, the matter is quite serious." The irony of Axel accusing Orion of the very crime he himself had committed was almost too much for Aurelia to bear. She was about to retort when Orion stepped forward, his manner relaxed and unthreatening. "I will cooperate with the technical ministry's investigation," he said calmly. "There is no need for conflict." Axel seemed taken aback by Orion's easy acquiescence. "You will come willingly?" "Of course. I have nothing to hide." Orion turned to Aurelia. "Princess, thank you for your hospitality. Perhaps we can continue our conversation another time." Aurelia wanted to protest, to reveal what she knew about Axel's actions, but Orion's slight shake of his head stopped her. He had a plan, and for now, she would trust his judgment. "Very well, Master Orion. I look forward to speaking with you again soon." As the technical ministry officials escorted Orion from the garden, Axel lingered, his expression smug. "A wise decision, Your Highness, to distance yourself from this matter. The king would be pleased by your discretion." Aurelia fixed him with a cold stare. I have made no decisions yet, Master Weaponsmith, and I would caution you against presuming to know what would please the king, or me." Axel's smile faltered slightly. "Of course, Your Highness. I meant no offense." He bowed again and hurried after the departing officials. When they were gone, Lyra approached, her face tight with concern. "Your Highness, what are we going to do? We know Axel is responsible for the attack on the chairman, not Master Orion." Aurelia watched the garden entrance where Orion had disappeared, her mind working through possibilities and implications. Master Orion seemed to have a plan. He wants us to wait, to be patient. She turned to Lyra, a determined glint in her eye. "But that doesn't mean we can't prepare. Contact the tournament council, the acting chairman, whoever that is now. Tell them I wish to make a special request regarding the championship match." Lyra's eyes widened as she began to understand. "You're going to try to get Master Orion into the tournament officially?" "Not exactly," Aurelia smiled, a plan beginning to form in her mind. "I'm going to create a situation where the truth cannot be hidden, no matter how much Axel and his allies might wish it to be. But first, we need to ensure Master Orion's safety and ministry custody. How do we do that? By reminding certain people that even kings must answer to public opinion." Aurelia began walking toward the palace, her steps purposeful. "Come, Lyra. We have much to do." And as Master Orion observed, patience can be a powerful ally, but so can decisive action, when the moment is right. The Technical Ministry's detention facility was located deep beneath Varan City, a sterile white complex shielded from external signals and surrounded by the most advanced security systems available. It was here that Orion had been brought for questioning, a euphemism that could encompass anything from a polite conversation to invasive neural scanning. For 3 days, Aurelia had been denied access to him, told repeatedly that the investigation was ongoing and that visitors would compromise the integrity of the process. Even her royal status had proven insufficient to override the Technical Ministry's protocols, a fact that both frustrated and worried her. In the meantime, the tournament had continued, drawing ever closer to the championship match. The speed duelist, recovered from his humiliating defeat by Orion, had withdrawn from competition, citing equipment malfunction, rather than admitting he had been outclassed. His replacement, a neural-enhanced warrior known as the Crimson Blade, had advanced easily to the finals, defeating opponents with brutal efficiency. On the morning of the 4th day after Orion's detention, Aurelia stood in her private communications chamber, facing a holographic projection of her father. The king appeared irritated by the interruption to his schedule. "Daughter, I have already told you that the ministry's investigation must proceed according to protocol. Even I cannot interfere without proper cause." "Father, the proper cause is that they have detained an innocent man while the real culprit walks free." Aurelia fought to keep her voice level. "I have evidence that Axel attacked the council chairman, not Master Orion." The king's expression hardened. "Evidence obtained without authorization, through channels that compromise palace security. Such evidence would be inadmissible in any formal proceeding. So we do nothing? Allow an innocent man to suffer while a criminal consolidates his position? The Technical Ministry assures me that Master Orion is being treated with all due respect. He is not suffering, merely being questioned." The king sighed, his demeanor softening slightly. "Aurelia, I understand your concern, but there are larger issues at stake here. Axel's weapons technology is vital to our kingdom's defense, even if your accusations are correct, and I'm not saying they are. We must proceed with extreme caution." Aurelia felt a cold anger settle in her chest. "So politics trumps justice, I understand. Father, you understand nothing, the king snapped. You see only the small picture, the immediate situation. A ruler must consider the long-term consequences of every action. And what are the long-term consequences of allowing corrupt officials to imprison innocent people? Of showing our citizens that power and wealth place certain individuals above the law? Aurelia met her father's gaze steadily. What kind of kingdom will you leave me to rule? Father, if its foundations are built on such principles. The king was silent for a long moment, his neural implants glowing as he processed her words. Finally, he spoke, his voice measured. What would you have me do, Aurelia? Order Master Orion's release into my custody. Allow him to stay at the palace until the tournament concludes. If the technical ministry has legitimate concerns, they can continue their investigation without keeping him imprisoned. And in return? Aurelia blinked, surprised by the question. In return? Yes. If I grant this request, what will you offer in exchange? The king's expression was calculating. Politics is the art of compromise. Daughter, you should begin practicing it. Aurelia considered for a moment, then made her decision. In return, I will participate more actively in state affairs. I will attend council meetings, learn the intricacies of governance that you have long encouraged me to study. I will be the princess you have wanted me to be. A slow smile spread across the king's face. Now, you begin to think like a ruler. Very well. I will order Orion's release, but he will remain under palace surveillance, and you will begin attending council sessions immediately. Agreed. The holographic projection flickered and disappeared, leaving Aurelia alone in the communications chamber. She let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding, relief mingling with a new determination. Lyra entered a moment later, her expression anxious. Your Highness, how did it go? My father has agreed to release Master Orion into palace custody. Aurelia moved toward the door. Arrange for guest quarters to be prepared immediately, and then contact the tournament council again. I want to know if they've made a decision regarding my request. Yes, Your Highness. Lyra hesitated. There's something else you should know. The technical ministry has announced a special demonstration to be held immediately before the championship match, a showcase of next-generation combat technology, personally presented by Oxel. Aurelia paused, her instincts alert. What kind of technology? They're calling it the Phantom Shield, supposedly a defense system that can neutralize phantom techniques and other unregulated combat methods. The announcement specifically mentions the incident with the speed duelist as an example of the threats it's designed to counter. So, Oxel is using Orion's victory to promote his new technology. Aurelia shook her head, disgusted, but not surprised. All the more reason to ensure our plan succeeds. Has there been any word about the council chairman's condition? He remains unresponsive, but stable. The medical reports indicate some improvement in neural activity, but it's unclear if or when he'll regain consciousness. Aurelia nodded thoughtfully. Keep me informed of any changes. And Lyra, thank you for your loyalty and your help. Lyra bowed slightly, a small smile on her face. Always, Your Highness. Later that afternoon, Orion arrived at the palace, escorted by royal guards rather than technical ministry officials. He looked unchanged by his ordeal, his weathered face as calm and his step as steady as when Aurelia had last seen him. The only difference was a thin metal band around his wrist, a monitoring device that would alert security if he attempted to leave the palace grounds. They met in the East Garden again, this time without the pretense of casualness. Aurelia had dismissed the guards to a discreet distance, wanting privacy for their conversation. "Master Orion, I apologize for what you've endured. The technical ministry had no right to detain you." Orion smiled, seeming genuinely unconcerned. "It was an informative experience, Princess. One rarely gets to observe the inner workings of such institutions." "Did they mistreat you?" "They attempted various forms of interrogation, but found their methods largely ineffective." There was a hint of amusement in his voice. "Phantom techniques are not the only ancient arts I have mastered. The mind can be trained to resist external influence, just as the body can be trained to move with precision." Aurelia shook her head in wonder. "You are a remarkable man, Master Orion." "I am simply a man who has lived long enough to learn a few useful skills." He glanced at the monitoring band on his wrist. "I see I am to remain under observation." "A compromise with my father. He agreed to your release, but insisted on certain precautions." "Understandable. Darius was always cautious, even as a young man." Orion turned his attention fully to Aurelia. "Now, Princess, tell me of your plans. I sense you have been busy during my absence." Aurelia outlined what she had done, her request to the Tournament Council, her efforts to gather more information about Axel and his connections within the government, her confrontation with her father. Orion listened without interruption, his expression thoughtful. "A bold strategy," he said when she had finished, "but also dangerous. Axel will not relinquish his position easily, and he has powerful allies. Including my father, to some extent," Aurelia acknowledged, "but I believe in the power of truth, especially when it's demonstrated publicly in a way that cannot be denied or explained away." Truth is indeed powerful, but it is also complex. What seems true from one perspective may appear quite different from another. Orion studied her intently. "Are you prepared for the consequences if your plan succeeds? Not all changes are welcome, even when they are necessary." Aurelia hesitated, then nodded firmly. "I am. Varen needs to evolve beyond its current structure, to find a balance between technological advancement and human development. My father's vision has brought us far, but it has also created inequities and vulnerabilities that we can no longer ignore." "You speak like a true ruler now. Princess." Orion's approval was evident in his voice. "Very well. I will play my part in your plan, with one condition." "What condition?" "That you remember, when all this is done, that power, whether derived from technology, position, or skill, is valuable only to the extent that it serves the greater good. It is a means, not an end in itself." Aurelia considered his words, recognizing the wisdom in them. "I will remember, Master. I promise." Orion nodded, satisfied. "Then let us prepare for the final act of this drama. The stage is set, the players are in position, and the audience awaits. All that remains is for us to deliver a performance they will never forget." As Aurelia walked with Orion back toward the palace, she felt a strange mixture of anticipation and apprehension. Events had been set in motion that could not be easily stopped, and the outcome was far from certain. But for the first time in her life, she felt as though she was truly charting her own course, rather than following the path laid out for her by others. Whatever happened next, she would face it on her own terms, a princess becoming a queen in more than just title. The day of the championship match dawned bright and clear, as if the weather itself had decided to cooperate with the significance of the occasion. The grand arena was filled beyond capacity, with additional viewing areas set up throughout Varen City for those unable to secure tickets. The excitement was palpable, fueled by rumors of special demonstrations and unprecedented royal involvement. Aurelia stood in the preparation chamber beneath the arena, dressed not in her usual royal finery, but in a combat suit of her own design, elegant but functional, with minimal neural enhancements. Beside her, Orion sat cross-legged on the floor, eyes closed in meditation, seemingly oblivious to the chaos around them as officials and technicians rushed to make final preparations. Lyra entered, her expression a mixture of excitement and anxiety. "Your Highness, it's time. The Technical Ministry's demonstration is about to begin." Aurelia nodded, taking a deep breath to center herself. "And the Council? They've confirmed their decision?" "Yes. The acting chairman has agreed to your request, though not without significant debate. The announcement will be made immediately following Oxel's demonstration." "Good." Aurelia turned to Orion, who had opened his eyes and risen to his feet with fluid grace. "Are you ready, Master?" "I have been ready for many years, Princess. The question is, are you?" Aurelia smiled, feeling a calm certainty settle over her. "Yes, I believe I am." They made their way to the royal viewing box, a position that offered both privacy and an unobstructed view of the arena floor. The king was already present, along with various high-ranking officials and nobles. He raised an eyebrow at Aurelia's attire, but made no comment. Below, the arena had been transformed for Oxel's demonstration. A large circular platform occupied the center, surrounded by various technological devices whose purpose wasn't immediately apparent. Oxel himself stood at the center, wearing what appeared to be a more advanced version of the speed duelist's neural armor, though with distinctive modifications. The Tournament Council acting chairman approached the central podium, his voice amplified across the arena. "Citizens of Varen, honored guests, and esteemed competitors. Before we proceed to the championship match, we are privileged to witness a special demonstration of next-generation combat technology, presented by Master Weaponsmith Axel of the Technical Ministry." Applause rippled through the crowd as Axel stepped forward, his expression confident to the point of arrogance. "Distinguished spectators, what you are about to witness represents the culmination of years of research and development, a breakthrough that will ensure Varen's continued dominance in both defensive and offensive capabilities." He gestured, and assistants brought forward what appeared to be a standard combat dummy. This training device has been programmed to execute a variety of combat techniques, including the so-called phantom techniques that have recently gained renewed attention. Aurelia noticed her father leaning forward slightly, his interest evidently piqued. "Observe," Axel continued, "as the dummy attempts to utilize these techniques against me." The dummy activated, its movements surprisingly fluid for an automated device. It circled Axel, then struck with a rapid series of blows that seemed to shimmer in the air, creating visual distortions similar to what Aurelia had observed when Orion defeated the speed duelist. Axel stood motionless, a slight smile on his face. As the dummy's attack reached him, there was a flash of energy from his modified armor, and the phantom techniques seemed to dissipate harmlessly around him. "The Phantom Shield!" Axel announced triumphantly. A revolutionary system that not only neutralizes phantom techniques, but redirects their energy back against the user. As if to demonstrate, the dummy suddenly froze, then collapsed to the ground, apparently disabled by its own attack. The crowd gasped, then erupted in applause. Aurelia glanced at Orion, whose expression remained neutral, though there was a slight tightening around his eyes. "Impressive," the king murmured beside her. "If it performs as advertised, this could eliminate one of our few remaining vulnerabilities." "If," Aurelia replied quietly. Technology often promises more than it can deliver. Axel was continuing his presentation, growing more animated as he described the potential applications of his invention. With the Phantom Shield integrated into our security systems, no practitioner of these antiquated techniques could threaten our infrastructure or our citizens. What we witnessed recently in this very arena, he paused, clearly referring to Orion's defeat of the speed duelist, would no longer be possible. Progress marches forward, rendering the old ways obsolete. The crowd's reaction was mixed, enthusiastic applause from some sections, particularly those occupied by the technological elite, but noticeable silence from others, especially the older spectators who remembered a time before neural enhancements had become standard. And now, Axel continued, to demonstrate the full capabilities of the Phantom Shield, I invite any practitioner of Phantom techniques to test themselves against it. The technical ministry is so confident in this technology that we are offering a substantial reward to anyone who can penetrate its defenses. This was the moment Aurelia had been waiting for. She rose from her seat, drawing all eyes in the royal box. I accept your challenge, Master Weaponsmith. A murmur of shock rippled through the arena as Aurelia's voice, amplified by the royal communication system, carried to every spectator. The king half rose from his throne, his expression a mixture of surprise and anger. But Aurelia was already moving toward the exit, Orion following close behind. By the time they reached the arena floor, the crowd was in an uproar, and Axel's confident expression had faltered visibly. The tournament council acting chairman hurried to intercept them, looking flustered. Your Highness, this is most irregular. The demonstration was not intended as an actual competition. But Master Axel issued a challenge to any practitioner of Phantom techniques, Aurelia replied smoothly. And I have been studying these techniques under Master Orion's guidance. This was, at best, a stretching of the truth. Their discussions had touched on the philosophical underpinnings of Phantom techniques, but Aurelia had received no practical instruction. That is... The acting chairman looked helplessly toward the royal box, seeking guidance from the king. The king stood, his face carefully composed, and gave a single, curt nod. Whether he was approving the demonstration or merely accepting the inevitable was unclear, but it was enough for the acting chairman. Very well, Your Highness. The challenge is accepted. He turned to address the crowd. An unexpected development. Citizens of Varen. Princess Aurelia herself will test the Phantom Shield technology. Axel had recovered his composure, though his eyes darted nervously between Aurelia and Orion. Your Highness, while I am honored by your interest, this technology is designed to counter techniques that require years of specialized training. Without meaning any disrespect, I doubt that a few days of instruction could prepare you adequately. Perhaps not, Aurelia conceded. But I am a quick study, and I have an excellent teacher. She glanced at Orion, who stood calmly at the edge of the platform, observing without comment. Axel's eyes narrowed. I see. Well, the challenge stands. Please, take your position. Aurelia stepped onto the platform, facing Axel across a distance of about 10 meters. The crowd had fallen silent, the tension in the arena palpable. This was no longer merely a technology demonstration. It had become something far more significant, a symbolic confrontation between two visions of Varen's future. The rules are simple, Axel announced, his voice carrying clearly across the arena. The princess will attempt to breach the Phantom Shield using whatever techniques she has learned. If she succeeds in landing a single effective strike, the challenge is won. If the shield repels all attempts, the technology is proven superior. Aurelia nodded her understanding, her mind focused on what Orion had taught her during their brief training sessions. Not the physical aspects of phantom techniques, as Axel had correctly noted. Those required years to master. But their underlying principle, the recognition that all systems, whether physical or electronic, contained inherent patterns that could be disrupted by introducing counter-patterns at precisely the right moment. "Begin when ready, Your Highness," Axel said, his tone faintly mocking. He stood relaxed, arms at his sides, clearly confident in his technology's protection. Aurelia closed her eyes briefly, centering herself as Orion had taught her. When she opened them again, she began to move, not with the direct aggression of conventional combat, but with the flowing, circular motions characteristic of phantom technique practitioners. She had no expectation of actually penetrating Axel's defenses. That wasn't the point of this exercise. The real objective was what would come next. As she moved closer, she could see the phantom shield beginning to activate, a faint shimmer of energy surrounding Axel. She continued her approach, her movements becoming faster and more complex, forcing Axel to commit more power to the shield's operation. A valiant effort. "Your Highness," Axel called, still confident. But as you can see, the shield adapts to your movements, anticipating and neutralizing each potential attack vector. Aurelia didn't respond, maintaining her focus. She had reached the limit of her minimal training now, and as expected, the shield was easily repelling her amateur attempts at phantom techniques. It was time for the next phase. She stepped back, bowing slightly to Axel. "You're right. Master Weaponsmith, my skills are insufficient to test your technology properly." She turned to where Orion stood. "Master Orion, would you honor us with a more thorough demonstration?" A hush fell over the arena. Axel's expression flickered between confidence and concern. This was not part of the arrangement. "But surely," Aurelia interrupted smoothly, "a technology designed to counter phantom techniques should be tested against a true master of the art, unless you have doubts about its effectiveness." It was a challenge Axel couldn't refuse without undermining his own claims. He straightened, forcing a smile. "Of course, the phantom shield will prove equally effective against any practitioner, regardless of their skill level." Orion stepped onto the platform, his movements unhurried and deliberate. He bowed to Aurelia, then to Axel. "A fascinating invention. Master Weaponsmith. I look forward to experiencing its capabilities firsthand." Axel's confidence seemed to waver slightly in the face of Orion's calm certainty, but he quickly recovered. "The rules remain the same. Begin when ready." Orion didn't move immediately. Instead, he stood perfectly still, his eyes closed, seemingly oblivious to the thousands of spectators watching intently. The silence in the arena deepened, stretching from seconds into a full minute of absolute stillness. Axel shifted uncomfortably. "If you require more time to prepare." His words cut off abruptly as Orion's eyes snapped open. There was no warning, no telegraphing of intent. One moment Orion was standing motionless. The next, he was directly in front of Axel, his hand extended in what appeared to be a simple, open-palmed strike. The phantom shield flared brilliantly, energy cascading around Axel in a protective cocoon. For a brief instant, it seemed as though the technology had succeeded in repelling the attack. Then, with a sound like crystal shattering, the shield collapsed completely. Orion's hand continued forward, stopping just short of Axel's chest. "A notable effort," Orion said quietly, "but fundamentally flawed. Your shield attempts to counter phantom techniques by analyzing and mirroring their patterns. But true mastery lies in having no pattern at all, in becoming as formless as the void itself." Axel stood frozen, shock evident on his face. The arena erupted in a mixture of gasps, cheers, and confused murmuring. Aurelia stepped forward, raising her hand for silence. When the crowd quieted, she addressed not just Axel, but the entire arena. Citizens of Varen, what you have witnessed is not merely a contest between a man and a machine, but a demonstration of an essential truth. Technology, for all its power and convenience, cannot replace the wisdom and skill acquired through dedicated human effort. She turned to face the royal box, where her father stood watching, his expression unreadable. For too long, our kingdom has pursued technological advancement at the expense of human development. We have traded the deep knowledge of our ancestors for the shallow convenience of neural implants and automated systems. This path has brought us prosperity, but also vulnerability, a dependence on external tools rather than internal strength. The crowd was listening intently now, all eyes on the princess, who was speaking not as a royal figurehead, but as a leader with a vision. I do not suggest that we abandon technology, Aurelia continued, but that we restore balance, that we recognize the value of both innovation and tradition, of both progress and wisdom. And to that end, she nodded to the Tournament Council acting chairman, who stepped forward with a document in hand. By unanimous decision of the Tournament Council, he announced, and with the approval of the Royal House, we hereby establish the Academy of Integrated Arts, to be headed jointly by Master Orion and Princess Aurelia Corthane. This institution will be dedicated to the preservation and development of both traditional combat disciplines and their harmonious integration with appropriate technology. This announcement was met with enthusiastic applause, especially from the older sections of the crowd. Aurelia could see her father's expression shifting from surprise to thoughtful consideration, and she allowed herself a small smile of satisfaction. The first step had been taken, but there was one more matter to address. She turned back to Axel, who still stood motionless, his phantom shield technology visibly damaged and inactive around him. Master Weaponsmith, your innovations have contributed greatly to Varen's advancement, and we value your expertise. However, she paused, choosing her words carefully. It has come to our attention that you may have been involved in the unfortunate incident with the Tournament Council chairman. In the interest of justice and transparency, we request your full cooperation with an independent investigation into these events. Axel's face drained of color. There must be some misunderstanding. There is security footage, Aurelia said quietly, for his ears alone. And other evidence. It would be better for all concerned if you cooperated voluntarily. Before Axel could respond, there was a commotion at the arena entrance. Medical staff were escorting someone onto the floor. The Tournament Council chairman himself, pale but conscious, supported on either side by attendants. I can confirm, the chairman called, his voice weak but determined, that Master Axel attacked me with a neural disruptor after I refused to ban Master Orion from further participation in the tournament. My memory of the event has returned, and I am prepared to testify to this effect. This announcement sent shockwaves through the arena. Royal guards moved quickly to surround Axel, who seemed to deflate visibly, all pretense of confidence abandoned. As Axel was escorted from the arena, Aurelia turned back to the crowd. Citizens of Varen, today marks a new beginning for our kingdom, a recommitment to the values of justice, balance, and human potential. The Grand Tactical Tournament will continue to showcase the finest warriors from across the land, but with a renewed emphasis on skill and discipline rather than technological advantage. She extended her hand to Orion, who took it with a slight smile. together. We will forge a path that honors both our past and our future, a path worthy of Varen's true greatness. The arena erupted in thunderous applause, the sound washing over Aurelia like a physical force. She looked up at the royal box, where her father still stood, watching. After a long moment, he inclined his head slightly, not quite approval, but acknowledgement. It was enough for now. As she and Orion left the arena, surrounded by cheering spectators and followed by Lyra and the tournament officials, Aurelia felt a profound sense of purpose settle over her. The path ahead would not be easy. Challenging entrenched interests and reforming ingrained systems never was. But for the first time, she was confident in her ability to navigate it. She had begun the tournament as a princess playing at power. She would end it as a leader with a vision, and the determination to make that vision reality. 6 months later, Aurelia stood on a hillside overlooking the newly constructed Academy of Integrated Arts. The complex was a harmonious blend of traditional architecture and modern functionality, with training grounds both indoors and out, research facilities, and dormitories for students who had come from across the Eastern Hemisphere to study. Beside her, Orion watched a class of young pupils practicing basic forms under the guidance of one of the instructors they had recruited, a former tournament champion who had embraced the philosophy of balanced development that the Academy promoted. "They show promise," Orion observed, his weathered face relaxed and content. "Especially the girl in the blue tunic. She has natural talent." Aurelia nodded in agreement. Lyra spotted her working as a messenger in the lower city. Her family couldn't afford neural enhancements, so she'd been relegated to menial tasks, despite her obvious intelligence and coordination. And now? Now she's on a full scholarship, with accommodations for her family in the Academy housing complex. One of many similar stories. Aurelia smiled. The social barriers are breaking down, slowly but surely. Even my father has begun to reconsider some of his more extreme positions on technological enhancement. Change is rarely comfortable, especially for those who have benefited from the status quo. Orion's expression turned serious. There will be resistance, perhaps even danger, as you continue this work. "I'm counting on it," Aurelia replied, her voice firm. "Meaningful change doesn't come without opposition, but we have truth on our side, and increasingly, public opinion as well." The technical ministry had undergone significant restructuring following Axel's arrest and conviction. His phantom shield technology, while innovative, had proven fundamentally flawed, unable to adapt to the formless nature of true phantom techniques, as Orion had demonstrated. Research continued, but with a new emphasis on complementing human capabilities rather than replacing them. The tournament, too, had evolved. While technological enhancements were still permitted, they were now balanced by stricter rules and categories that ensured naturally trained competitors had an equal opportunity to showcase their skills. Participation had increased dramatically, with many formerly marginalized fighters entering the lists for the first time. "Your grandmother would be proud," Orion said softly. She had a similar vision, though the times were not right for it then. Aurelia had learned much about her grandmother in recent months, discovering a legacy of progressive thinking and subtle resistance to the technological determinism that had dominated Varen's development. It was a legacy she was honored to continue. "I wish I had known her better," she admitted. "All my life, I've been taught to look forward, never back, to value innovation above tradition, progress above wisdom. It took your appearance to show me what I was missing." "Not missing," Orion corrected gently. "Simply waiting to discover. The knowledge was always there, like the inherent weakness in Axel's blade. It merely required the right perspective to see it. Aurelia laughed. Always the teacher, Master Orion. Always the student, Princess Aurelia. Together, they walked down the hill toward the academy, where students were gathering for an evening demonstration. In the setting sun, their shadows stretched long across the ground, merging with those of the young people who represented Varen's future, a future balanced between the wisdom of the past and the promise of what was yet to come. And as the hidden master and the once arrogant princess joined their students in the training yard, a new chapter began, not just for them, but for all of Varen City, where the old and the new had finally found harmony in the space between heartbeats, in the void where true mastery resided.